every day was like, I cannot believe how much has been missed for how many years and how simply Dr. Maggie's been able to put it together to understand the whole process and the pathophysiology behind this.
Hey, everybody. Today we have an interview with Kelli, who's an RN who's been struggling with, you'll see, Hashimoto's, but a whole bunch of other precursors and things, including Epstein-Barr virus, including tons of food allergies, and she even had long haul. So put that together, and this RN was going to get put out of work. See where she is today. I'm Maggie Yu, MD. I'm a functional and holistic medicine physician and the creator of Transform and the Transform protocol on how to turn around any autoimmune disease naturally. If you want to learn more about us, make sure you join our Facebook group, Transform Autoimmune Disease Naturally. And there's a link above or a link below to chat our team. If you're watching us from YouTube or Instagram, give us a like and a follow on YouTube. Make sure you click subscribe so then you get notified every time that we are live.
So Kelli, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Kelli Saddlemeyer, and I have been a nurse for more years than we need to discuss. I work labor and delivery. I'm married with 3 children and 2 wonderful grandchildren.
So you have a very busy professional life and personal life, it sounds like. With labor and delivery too, that's a demanding job.
It's demanding and it's physical. And we're a very high volume unit. So we usually run around 500 births or so a month.
Wow. And so you have to have a lot of energy for that. You have to be, I'm thinking tip top mentally and physically. But unfortunately, you have been dealing with some challenging health issues over the last how long now?
Since actually May, it started.
Right.
Now the long haul issues, oh, probably a good 20, 30 years, actually.
Really? Okay. Well, that's interesting. You mean just like those kinds of symptoms that most people that get that certain virus deal with, or what do you mean by
No,
that?
years ago, I started with Epstein-Barr virus and then Hashimoto's, and the other types of autoimmune symptoms that come from that over time. I love to snow ski, but I deal with Raynaud's. And there's other types of just those autoimmune groups of symptoms that start to affect life.
Okay, we're talking decades.
About 2008, I believe.
Okay. And unfortunately, it sounds like the problems continued to accumulate. So what was going on this year then? Was it when you got hit with the virus that everything kind of came to the head?
Yes, because I've been able to use alternative methods and gotten by pretty well. Sometimes real tired, more of a flare, but I've gotten along pretty well until I got hit with the virus. Once I got hit with the virus, I continued to just get worse. Instead of the 2 weeks where you normally go back to work, I went back to work, did a 12-hour shift, and literally couldn't stand up the next day. And so there was no recovery. I just couldn't get better. You do something and get a little tired and rest, but it didn't get better. So I was off work for a period of time, then started back at 4-hour shifts, which I thought was ridiculous, but I was going home, going to bed after 4 hours of work.
So what did that feel like?
Weakness and exhaustion. It really felt like nerve weakness, pretty much legs down, that I just couldn't move. I was so tired. So both just the general fatigue, but literally like my legs were going to give out. So on the stairs, I'd have to kind of lock my knees to walk up and down the stairs because they felt like they'd collapse.
Okay, not a way to live. What would you say on a scale of 1 to 10? How bad was that fatigue and weakness?
Oh, I think we're hitting an 8 to 10, depending on the day.
So this was completely impacting your life. It sounds like you were very much so cutting your hours back. I mean, went from working 12-hour shifts to then 4-hour shifts and barely even able to do that. Emotionally, what were you thinking? I mean, what was it like?
It felt like something had to change. It was months in that situation. That started in May, and I was watching Dr. Maggie's information and things online, and said, well, if it's real, I have to try. I watched for a little while, not too long. I think I watched around a month before I said, I have to try this because I have to get better. I'm not willing to live this way. And I've given my body long enough on its own to try to recover, and it didn't do it. So I got to help it.
You said something very interesting to me in that you saw her information online and you wondered to yourself, is this real? Talk me through that a little bit more, because other people have said this too, it's online, so it must be a scam, right?
Yes, it's the first thing that comes to mind. It's like, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of promises online and a lot of empty promises, and you just aren't sure. And there's often a hard sell with it. When you first become involved with something, there's a very hard sell. And I felt like, well, if that's what it's going to be, then I won't proceed with it. But I did take the first phone call. It was not a hard sell. She was wonderful with just discussing what the program is and what it could do, what the possibilities are for us. And it was super encouraging. So at that point, I decided that I probably wanted to do the program, but they said you needed to be there with your spouse. Well, my spouse is always gone and at work. So I think it took me another 3 weeks to come up with a time when he could be with me to make the phone call. So.
Well, and that's because family support can be critical in this. If you're not surrounded by that same support system and that same excited energy to make a change in your life, it can be very challenging for people to successfully make that change. So luckily you finally had the both of you together. And it sounds like he was just as on board as you were, because I'm sure he's seeing his wife and thinking, we can't live like this.
No, and he's always supportive. So there was never any problem with it. He's extremely helpful and supportive with anything that would be helpful. The food, the diet, all of it, no problem.
Well, and you have a medical background, and it's always interesting to me because there are so many people who come through this program who also have a medical background. What kind of help were you getting from the conventional medical world, if at all?
Very minimal, because part of it is I don't seek it. I've been exposed to it for so many years that I have found that conventional medicine doesn't generally address the types of things that I've been working through. So I have mostly looked for alternative, but it's always bits and pieces. I can get a little bit here or glean a little over here. I've never had anyone put the package together to understand the whole process and the pathophysiology behind this to know how to proceed with an autoimmune disease.
And from a medical perspective, that you have this background yourself, did it blow your mind finally? I mean, it sounds like you have been researching alternative methods for a very long time now. So to see all of this come together, and were light bulbs just going off for you saying, aha, there's a missing link. What were you thinking as you went through this?
Every day was like, I cannot believe how much has been missed for how many years, and how simply Dr. Maggie's been able to put it together. It takes effort if you choose to follow this pathway, but it's so worth the effort to do this and to take the time. I specifically planned to dedicate the time for learning, to be on the calls and to be on the video chats. And I made a work request to make sure I had certain shifts off or days so that I could be available for the calls. So it was commitment, but I was very committed to doing and following the process.
So I'm curious, I just want to jump right into it. How are you feeling? How are you doing?
Much improved. So I'm up to working 10-hour shifts, and I'm getting through them pretty well. I'm still quite tired at the end of 10, but
wouldn't be.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's also the side of me that says, okay, but it would be normal when you've been on your feet and be really busy for 10 hours. Most people would still be tired. So it's okay. I think I'm very close to coming back to my normal self. But I believe that with a little more time, I'm going to be better than that, and will regain more of the energy that I have desired for so long.
Yes, because it's a 10-week program, but Dr. Maggie always says it's launching you into at least a year of autoimmune and mystery symptom turnaround. What do you think was the linchpin or linchpins that helped you start to turn this all around?
I believe it's actually a combination of all of it. So, just from the beginning, starting and being sure that I'm drinking enough water, and then moving into the blood glucose control, along with the labs. My B12 was low, my D3 was low, my iron was low. And to be taking all of those, working on getting to the correct blood levels of just the basic elements that my body needs. I believe that those have been really big. The food was, I have had a lot of food sensitivities, found out I really don't have any food allergies. So
okay, tell me about that, because I know that when you were entering the program, this was a huge frustration for you. In fact, it was on your wish list, right? All you wanted to be able to do was be able to go out, act like a normal person and have a meal at a restaurant with friends and family, right?
That's right.
But that was something you couldn't do. Talk to me about why.
The food sensitivities. So I would have allergic reactions. Knowing that I don't have the food sensitivities has really just taken us to the next step. I do believe that I have a lot of sensitivities to pesticides, and I had discovered that a while ago. Didn't know that that was probably the primary problem, not so much food. But I still avoid and have had more of a stronger an IgE reaction with glutens and corn. So I'm still careful, and I'll continue to be careful with pesticides. But it's taken a lot of the fear out, going, okay, I'm a little more focused on what the problem is versus afraid of touching anything, you know.
Right. And that food trauma is such a real concept. I mean, I have the same issues that you're having with food sensitivities and IgE reactions. And it can be a little bit scary. And you wonder, okay, maybe I just should avoid it. I'll eat all my meals at home because I don't even want to deal with that uncertainty. But with Dr. Maggie and her food mapping process, as you know, it's unlike any other food testing out there. So you really get very clear answers as to, okay, what will I react to and what do I not react to, so that then I can incorporate these foods that maybe I had been avoiding back into my life.
Yeah. Yes, it's wonderful as you begin. I've done some, but just removing the fear is huge.
And I'm just like you, getting back to when you were talking about it's the whole program. Just so you know, I'm going through her program right now as well. And I can relate because, you know, the B12 is low, the vitamin D is low, all of these things are low. And you would never know that because maybe your levels were in the reference range, right? But when you start learning with Dr. Maggie about, well, the reference range is not really the range we should be looking at. The functional range is something very different. And that's the range we need to aim for to feel well.
That's right. And I didn't know that. So having those ranges and working toward that is awesome. The other big thing for me is hormones, and we're still working on that. So I expect that will take a while, but I think that will be another huge step for me when we begin to get the hormones more balanced.
What did you learn about your hormones?
Because I am menopausal, I was taking hormones, but they had never been checked as far as levels. And they were just off the charts, a mess. So I have stopped taking all hormones, and I'm working just with the skin creams. And we'll recheck on the hormones in a couple of months, and we'll work from there as to next steps and what to do.
Kelli, can we just talk for a moment though? You were taking hormones. Some physician prescribed you hormones and then decided it was not important enough to recheck your levels to determine if those were the appropriate dosing. I mean, oh, I know that would probably make Dr. Maggie hot under the collar because it's, you know, these doctors don't know better. So it's hard to be too angry, but it's so frustrating for you, the patient, because you're left to flounder then with perhaps inappropriate levels and hurting yourself further. I mean, what is that like when you think about the fact that you were never rechecked to see if that was even the appropriate dosing for you?
It's difficult, it's frustrating, but I also understand in so many ways, so many of the practitioners don't know what to do. And I think maybe because I'm also from the medical side, a lot of times they try things, they're hoping, but they really don't know enough about it.
Yeah. But you're getting it addressed now. You now know better, so you can do better and continue to work on your hormones and continue to see improvement. Okay, so I had asked you how bad was the pain and fatigue on a scale of 1 to 10 before starting the program, and you said, yeah, it was like an 8 to a 10, the fatigue and weakness, that is.
Yes.
How would you rate that now?
I think the fatigue and weakness is probably down to about a 3.
Wow. I mean, that's a big difference.
Huge. Yeah.
How about your family? What are they noticing?
My kids have both said it. It's like, Mom, your voice sounds like you have more energy, you know? So no, the kids have definitely noticed that things are better. I'm going back to work. New things are happening.
Mom sounds brighter. Mom sounds energized. Mom sounds like mom.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got sweet grandchildren that I know you want to be around for, and I know you want to have the energy to play with. What's that change been like, getting to spend more quality time with them?
It has been, it's wonderful to be able to say, hey, why don't I pick him up from school, from preschool today, or be able to play with him a bit and say, I have the energy still to do this. I can enjoy them. I can spend time with them, and I can help you out. Yeah.
So I know you mentioned earlier that, was this a scam? We were a little bit worried, cautious. What changed your mind and you decided to take the leap?
Just, I think, watching other people and what they had gone through, and learning that how much data was really involved with this, that we were going to be looking at specific lab results. We were going to work through testing, having specific things to work for and toward that are measurable. Very important.
Was the cost of the program a concern for you?
Absolutely, especially because at that time I was off on disability completely. I wasn't working at all. But we had those discussions of like, yes, but if I can get better and go back to work.
And let's talk about that. I mean, what do you think now that you have been able to go back to work and you're working 10-hour shifts? I mean, and most people don't work 10-hour shifts. That's more than what most people are working. You've been able to regain your life and your financial freedom through, having strong employment, not being on disability. Considering all of that, what do you think the cost benefit of this program is now? I mean, what is this program worth to you?
Oh, it was absolutely worth every bit of the cost of the program. The knowledge and the education, it's not just for 10 weeks. And I think that's a big part of understanding the cost of this program, is you now have information for life and that you can share. She encourages you to help your kids and help your family. Autoimmune disease runs in my family. My father has Graves. I have Hashimoto's. And my father and mother both have food sensitivities. And my children, we've been gluten-free. I've been gluten-free now for at least 15 years. And at that point realized my children were having problems. So they're also gluten-free. And now I'm much more like, okay, it's time to test them for other autoimmune problems, because I didn't know I had an 80% chance of passing this on to them. Just like I didn't know I had a 10 times higher risk of cancer, thyroid cancer, due to the Hashimoto's. Just things I didn't know. So things I didn't know to ask my healthcare provider for.
I want to talk to you about both of those things. Let's first start talking about your children.
Okay.
This program, it's going to change not only the course of your life, it sounds like, but your children and grandchildren, because like you said, autoimmune disease runs in families, and for certain it runs in your family. So now you're able to make the change in you and be an example for your children. What does that mean to you, knowing that not only are you doing something to benefit your life, but truly for generations beyond you?
Well, that's where the cost is very minimal. The cost of the program suddenly says, wow, the effect that this is having for my entire family. And as you said, for generations, the meaning is so deep.
Okay, you mentioned you were getting biopsied and that you never knew that you were at a 10 times greater risk for cancer. All of the many, many years that you've been dealing with Hashimoto's, and knowing that you have an autoimmune attack against your thyroid, no doctor has ever mentioned to you that this is something we need to take very seriously, because indeed you are at a greater risk for cancer. So I am curious to hear, how has that changed your life, learning that throughout this program, and what steps have you taken since then?
So I learned that I should have had a thyroid ultrasound at some point in time. And when I asked my practitioner for it, they immediately said, yes, there was no problem in getting the order. Had it done right away, and they found what they call a TR5 nodule. So that's a nodule at a highly suspicious level for possible cancer. So I have had a biopsy on that. So that's where I'm at in the process. And it came back inconclusive. So they couldn't see definite cancer, but they also had other changes within the cellular structure. So they want to do another biopsy with molecular studies. So that's the process, where I'm at in the process for the thyroid follow-up. Never would have done any of it, never knew to do any of it if it hadn't been within the program with Dr. Maggie. So again, the value for me is incredible.
Because Kelli, I don't think we can overstate this enough. The information you learned led you to go get checked out, which did come back with something suspicious. This information, it is not an exaggeration to say, could save your life.
It is no exaggeration. Yes.
What do you think about that?
Just incredibly thankful, blessed, feel very led that this was the right program for me at the right time.
Yeah. Well, you should be happy with yourself too for making this choice, for jumping in and deciding, you know what, I need to do something. My life will never change if I continue to do things the same way. You took that leap and you got information that has now led you to a place where you're going to be able to have a medical intervention if necessary. It's really big for you and your entire family because they need to have, what do your grandkids call you? Does they call you grandma?
I'm Nana.
Nana. Okay, they need to have Nana and mom around and wife around for a long, long time.
Yes.
Okay, so what was your favorite thing about this program?
I do think my favorite part was all of it together. It has to be, it all fits. And so there wasn't a specific part. And I think that's where my problem had been before, is I would just do a piece of this or a piece of that. So the cohesiveness of the entire program together was what I felt was critical.
And then people always want to know, what was it like to work with Dr. Maggie?
To me, it was very much sit back and listen and gain every bit of knowledge and understanding you can as she speaks. She's done so much research and so much study, and there's so much to learn. She has so many little tidbits as she's speaking with everyone. So as much as possible, I just wanted to listen. Yeah.
So taking it all in. Okay. I love it. What do you want to say to anybody that's out there right now that is wondering, okay, it worked for Kelli, but would it really work for me? What would you say to that person?
There is a part of you that has to be willing to commit as well. So no one's going to do this program for you. The value is there, but you have to do it yourself. You have to choose it. You have to live it. You have to listen and act. So if you're not ready to listen and act, then it's not the right program, because you have to be willing to be self-educated and take control of your own life and your own health.
You have to want it. You have to want to make a change for yourself.
You have to want it and be willing to actually do it.
Is there anything else you wanted to tell me?
I just want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the group and the hope that it's given me, that I'm going to continue to progress, do better, and live the life I have been wanting to live for a long period of time.
Love it. Maggie, did you have any extra questions for Kelli?
I really did. Actually, I always think, and it's always interesting talking to another healthcare provider. And the reason is, it's like, there's a lot of misconceptions. Like you said, people think, oh, this is something online, it's got to be a scam, or there's got to be some dishonesty with it. Well, how would you rate the quality of the medical education that you got in here compared to all the medical training that you got to prepare you for being an RN and for you to practice as an RN? How did the education compare in this program to that medical education?
This was absolutely every bit as good. This is a 10 type of education to get in and really learn and understand. And this has a specific focus. So it's not so broad. It's not about everything you must know. It's really about what's going on for you. And that makes it so much more valuable and so much more applicable, because everything you're learning, you're doing. And it's an incredible opportunity to learn and understand.
Yeah, I always tell someone this, and it's hard for people to believe this, but that the start for me really culminated for me around 36, but it started for me much earlier than that. And what I found was that people don't realize that I'm 52 currently. So how many years does that make? 16 years. It took me 16 years. So it took me all my medical MD training, 16 years since getting sick, to learn all of this. And there were years of disability in it as well, to be, and I had to invest in learning different ways of dealing with this. When I tell people it's 16 years and over $1 million, of investment and time, work loss, all that put together, it's like, for me, I think one of the biggest pride and joy that I have is that I love being able to teach this to somebody in 2 months' time.
It's incredible.
Don't take 16 years. Don't take $1 million. Give me 2 months and be willing to commit to yourself and act. And you can learn this in 2 months.
Yes. but be willing to commit. There's a lot of education here, and I'm not done. There's more. There's
Oh
more
God,
videos.
no.
I haven't
I'm
seen.
all about lifelong learning here, and you're continuing to learn for the rest of your life.
Yes.
That's a commitment I make to people in the program, and that's a commitment in the program people make to themselves and their autoimmunity.
Correct.
I'm not stopping here. I'm staying ahead of you always, like with my autoimmunity, period. I'm so excited. I'm so happy for you. And my sense, Kelli, of you watching you was that you were actually listening and soaking in every single mastermind call. You were on every call, and I could just see, and half the time you had a smile on your face.
Yeah.
I always was like, what is she thinking? She always had this smile. She's smiling. What is she thinking? But I get the sense you were just taking it in, and I could see ahas. That's what I felt like the smile was about, was like, she's making the connection. It's making sense. And she's like, it's getting put together. That's what I saw light bulbs above your head most of the time. That's my perception of you throughout the entire program.
Yes. It's been a wonderful experience, and I am very thankful to have had the opportunity to be a part of it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Kelli, you were wonderful. It was so great to meet you.
It was
And
nice meeting you, Anne.
continued hope and prayers that your journey continues to just get better and better.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Have a
Kelli.
good day.
Wow, Dr. Maggie, hearing from Kelli that this program gave her the information that then led her to go and seek out an ultrasound for her thyroid, just in case she was at a 10 times greater risk for cancer, and then find a suspicious nodule. Now she's in the process of working through all that. But she even said it is no exaggeration to say that this information quite possibly saves her life.
And it's maddening to me, the lack of education we have for our medical providers, for our endocrinologists, about anything with autoimmune disease. They really know nothing about autoimmune disease. And it's shocking to me, not shocking, I've practiced in this field for a long time. Doctors and endocrinologists have no clue just how much of a higher risk people with autoimmunity have for cancer. Specifically, if you have thyroid, Hashimoto's or Graves, you're 10 times higher risk of thyroid cancer. So for me, I love the fact that I have an opportunity to teach everyone in our program. And even on my videos that I've put out on social media, I talk about this whole issue of the increased risk of cancer, and there is something that you can do about it. I love the fact she's going to be looking at her data. She's going to be looking at this ultrasound. She's going to be looking at repeat lab testing. So I sure as hell want to know if somebody has autoimmune issues. I sure as hell is going to teach them on getting the exact labs optimal, calming their autoimmune attack, and also the right diagnostics on that. So for me, those are all missing. And that's really key. There's an order of operations. There are things that need to be done and in the right order for every single thing with autoimmunity. And I love teaching that.
And you've empowered her now. She's not at the mercy of just a doctor. She knows what she needs to get done for her own medical health.
She's smarter than all the doctors she'll ever meet. That's the thing is I tell people, and you're in the program right now. I tell people, and I am God honest truth telling people this. By the end of this, you're going to learn how to think like me. And you're going to be smarter than all the doctors that you've ever met and all the functional medicines you've ever met on how to deal with autoimmunity. And that's a promise.
It's so true. I just have to go ahead and give a testimonial little bit about that, because I went and got my own thyroid ultrasound done yesterday.
Yay.
And I was like regurgitating words. I sounded like Dr. Maggie telling them exactly,
God, I love that.
You teach us how to work with doctors as well, so that they want to be members on our team. And really we can work together then to help our own health. And you teach us.
Yeah, I do. And the thing is, it's not that doctors are dumb or doctors are mean or they're intentionally trying to harm you. It's that there is nothing in the way that conventional doctors and even functional doctors are trained to really understand the whole framework around autoimmunity, all the connections that are there, all the cancer risk, all the functional labs, all the implementation. It's like, that's just, that training doesn't exist for any of these doctors, and even functional doctors or naturopaths. So I love the fact that we're doing something really unique, and that's comprehensive, that's educational. So I'm not joking. This is a master's in turning around autoimmunity that nobody else has ever gotten on earth.
It's the truth. And Kelli said it best when she said, anybody who really wants to make a change for themselves, that's what you have to decide.
Absolutely.
Do you want to send your life in a different direction, or do you want to stay sick? And if you want to get better and you want to learn everything that's going on with your body, well, then take that leap and reach out to the team.
You know, I made a video about the autoimmune timeline, and I totally charted the progress of autoimmune disease where the attack on your body symptoms keep going more and more. And so we see a decline in health like this. And I tell people, and I told someone today, in fact, that the earlier you may think, oh, I could stop, I could wait 6 months, I could wait 6 years when the timing is right and all that. Okay, that's your timing. Autoimmune disease has its own timing and it's continuing to go on. Kelli's case is a perfect example of this. She decided to take action, and she's getting a biopsy and she's getting an ultrasound and catching cancer before it becomes cancer, or it's an early stage of cancer where there is an intervention. Not like, oh, I'm going to wait till you have this lump coming on your neck and you have cancer and you're going to die from thyroid cancer. Oh, then you have a problem. That intervention right there is really important, that the earlier you intervene, the less money, the less time you need to put into it, and the bigger the results you're going to get, versus waiting 6 months or 6 years when it's so much worse and it's such a farther distance to get to normal from that. And then there's going to be things you can never come back from, like terminal cancer, right?
Right.
So the autoimmune timeline doesn't stop. Autoimmune disease doesn't stop. So don't you dare stop.
Yeah, because it's about your quality of life, but when it comes down to it, it also could be your life.
It is your life.
So if anybody out there does want to get in touch with you, how should they do so?
Yeah, thanks. Make sure you join our Facebook group, everyone, and make sure there's a link above and below this video to chat our team as well. And for those of you that are on Facebook, make sure if you have made a comment, if you message our team, check your message request box, because I bet you we responded and you didn't even see it. So check that out. We're definitely, the best way to get a hold of us is chat us and join our Facebook group.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thank you.